under the pale moonlight. Vinny and Phil bring the shadows to life. Tales of the ghostly whispers in the night. Bigfoot and aliens ready for the strife. The darkness thickens, the air is cold. Haunting stories waiting to unfold. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. EVPs echo through the haunted trees. Demons lurk as the chill hits with ease. But the caps rolling with guests to amaze. Cryptids and spirits were lost in the haze. Northmen in the foliage, watch your back. Dogmen prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. Moving in the foliage, watch your back. Through the prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. So tune in next week, fear in your soul. Darkness awaits, let the stories unfold. Cry out, begin!
We have our special guest tonight, Miss Stacy Price from Oklahoma.
Hello.
Hello. Glad to have you on Supernatural Sundays. This is our first live in January of 2025.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Hopefully, Vinny will come on a little bit later. I understand you're from Oklahoma. You've been doing paranormal investigating for a many number of years.
Yes.
And you've kind of traveled the world. I've seen where you've been to London and Louisiana. You had some pretty crazy stuff going on down there. You're also a falconer. Is that where you have like the bird and you have the bird like send it out and catch rabbits and whatnot?
Yes. So I am a master falconer. I currently hunt with two Harris's hawks and a American kestrel. I also have a barn owl that is used for education. So his story is kind of sad that he was taken away as a baby and given to a 12-year-old little girl. And when they figured out all of the expenses and the fees that were going to come along with that, they said, no, we're going to turn this out into the game ranger. And so anyways, he had to be placed with either a rehabilitator or somebody has an education or falconry permit. So everything has to be properly permitted.
We run into a lot of hooty hoot owls when we're out there in mainly cemeteries. We run into them a lot over here in Kentucky, and sometimes they'll be pretty close. Then you don't know they're there, and they start hooting at you and scare you pretty good. I had one out in my backyard here one night, about 10 foot away from me. I didn't even know he was there, and when he hooted, it was I jumped and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I'm also a federally licensed rehabber, so I work with hawks, owls, and eagles are my specialty.
So birds of prey.
Yes.
Now, when you hunt with them, they bring you the rabbit and then you give them a treat or something?
No.
Doing it, or how does it?
So there's not really any alterations to their conditioning from what they actually do in the wild. Birds kill rabbits. That's just how it is. They're the prey. So what we do is we condition them to hop back to us, or hop to the fist, as we call it in the beginning, for a reward. So once that animal has gone in and made the kill, we approach the animal really quickly to, first of all, to make sure that the rabbit or whatever the prey is humanely dispatched in a very short period of time. And then what we do is we do a swap. And the way that I can kind of make this make sense to people is, if I offered you a raw steak or a steak that was cooked medium rare, ready to go with all the seasonings, you're of course going to jump on, the one that's already cooked and prepared. So when I show up to the rabbit, I actually pull out of my bag what they call either tidbits, which are small amounts of food, or in some cases like a whole rabbit's leg that from a previous kill. And then I just show it to him, and he's like, "Wait, I don't even have to remove all the fur or anything like that. I'm just gonna hop up here and change this out, and I'm gonna eat this right now, versus having to remove all this dang fur so that I can have a meal." And then when they do that, we take the rabbit and we put that in the bag. And the reason they used to do this is because years and years ago, that's what the kings, this was the sport of kings, and that's what they took home to, everybody to feed all the king's, people, and the pheasants and all the stuff that they hunted for. Even when you're hunting with bald eagles, you can take deer. So venison was also on that. So yeah, that's how that all came about.
I've seen down in Florida, and I've seen them out like Washington State. The eagles, coming down and catching fish, and then some of those other osprey. I'd see those
Mhm.
catching. I seen one take fish from another bird and took it from him. And
Oh yeah,
I
I have a little kestrel in there that I call them. They're like the chihuahuas of the bird world, because they don't know, even though they're like this big, they don't know that they're that big, and they literally will go after anything. So it's nothing to see a kestrel come up and try to take something from an owl or another bird of prey. Just like, mm-mm, nope, it's mine.
do, do you ever get involved with like nuisance, like animal control or like bird control? Like if you got pigeons in your building, or like you got some kind of nuisance animals in your building. You ever use the birds for that?
So, sometimes we do get called, as rehabbers, to go out and remove birds from buildings. Now, there is a separate license where you go out and literally, like, I have a friend that just finished a refinery, and they train the birds in um, basically like a Kwanzaa hut kind of thing that's dark, and they use lasers. They use these lasers and they shine them on where their meat is, and so the bird gets to associate in that, hey, when the laser hits that meat, that's a free meal for me. So they get accustomed to, normally when a hawk wouldn't hunt in the dark, they can with this, because they see that laser and they know that, that's free dinner. But most of the time, when you're doing this type of work, you literally just kind of take your fist and bump it up like this, and the hawk spreads their wings, or the owl, depending on what you're hunting with, and basically that just completely, the animals learn, they learn to not roost at night at like the refineries and stuff like that, because all of the poop from the other birds that land there does a lot of damage.
Oh yeah. Have you ever thought about, or maybe I don't know if this is kind of out there, but you ever thought about using the birds, like specifically maybe the owls, for any kind of paranormal research or cryptid research?
There's so much that's in mythology, that owls predict death and this and that. And I actually have given a speech on that before, but it's all cultural. One Native American tribe may think that, an owl is a good omen, that there's going to be good things to come. If you heard an owl hoot before, you're supposed to go into battle the next day. Whereas with some tribes, it's like if you hear so there's a barn owl and then there's a screech owl. And actually, when they say that, oh, you don't want to hear the screech owl, they're actually talking about a barn owl. Chances are you're never going to see or hear the little screech owls, because they're really tiny and they make a really small sound. But barn owls are very noisy, so they were originally referred to as the original screech owl, but they were actually referring to barn owls. And barn owls are, I know that culturally, it's like there's a lot of tribes that go, nope, don't want any part of hearing that around my house. But they actually, one barn owl will do 5,000 rodents a year. So if you don't want mice in your house, it's good luck to have some barn owls close by, because they'll take care of all of that. Especially if they've got young to feed, you could have up to 15,000 rodents, taken care of in 1 year. So.
I know a owl is a silent. They're silent. You can't hear them flying. If you could train one to come down on a Sasquatch or a cryptid and take a chunk of fur, take a chunk of fur out and bring back some DNA.
Yeah,
They can
right.
detect. They can detect drones. They can detect cameras. They can detect all kind of equipment, And
Mm-hmm.
the guys that have the best luck go out there with no equipment. They just take like a kerosene lantern and they just go sit out there. They get more.
Yeah, at one time they were training eagles to be anti-drone, to go up and snatch them out of the sky. So, but I think there was some controversy though on the. I don't know how far that program ever got. I didn't ever follow up with it, but there was a lot of controversy on cuts. But they were trying to use like leather extensions of the legging of the anklets to try to cover everything. So I'm not sure how it went.
So their feet would attack the blades on
Yes.
the drones.
Yeah.
Speaking of drones, I've got a couple drone videos here, and I'm going to play a couple of these and
Sure.
we'll see what you think.
A drone strikes grounds a super scooper in Sedona fires. Anaheim, California has a Dior bag flying sighting. Long Island, New York has a drone bag sighting. Pretty cool. Fort Worth, Texas is another Dior bag sighting. Massachusetts, Boston also has a Dior bag sighting. And over Japan by Eko Terezaki has a giant 1 kilometer tall umbrella shaped Dior bag. It looks pretty nuts, guys. Check that out. That's nuts. Alright. Deuces.
Wow.
I'm not sure what a Dior bag. I think that's some kind of a high fashion.
Yeah, that's
purse
like a very
there.
expensive purse for women. One I don't own.
I don't think we have anything like that. We get the knockoffs up at the auction.
Yeah, no, I already spent enough on falconry equipment as it is. I don't need another hobby buying purses.
They're seeing these drones all over the place. Here's another one.
And this would all be over by now, was more sophisticated than I ever imagined. Take a look.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 lights, 6 lights.
I didn't believe what I was seeing. One after another, these drones appeared in the night sky. One of their officers called 911 after seeing 50 of them come off the ocean.
Advised after we made contact with that officer that there were 50 that came off the ocean. 50? 50. We contacted the Coast Guard, at which point the Coast Guard went out with their boat and they reported seeing 13 about 300 feet and had a wingspan of about 8 feet.
I see one right here. What I can tell you is I've never seen anything like it before. Wow. The federal government doesn't know what they are either. Ocean County Sheriff Department, they launched their own drones to see if they could intercept the mysterious aircraft. The department says these mystery drones evade detection because they don't give off heat like regular drones. To me, then it's even more scary, and we need the answers, frankly.
That can be something as simple as our own military aircraft. We already have that type of technology in the Air Force. And I mean, look at all of the different, the F-35Bs, look at all the different Air Force and Navy airline or jets that are out there that have all of these superior capabilities. I mean, this could be something as simple as, we're not going to tell you what we're doing type of thing. So, I don't think necessarily it's anything alien. I think it could be anything overseas. I would buy that before I would buy anything it being UFO or as far as what I saw in that particular clip. Now, could there be something else? Absolutely. I bought my brother this million-mile laser for Christmas. And we went outside and we saw something in the sky where I was like, well, that's definitely not an airliner. It's like, that's might be a satellite, but I don't think so. And he shined it up to it and it made a really radical move and then just light was off. It was done. So what we saw, we have no idea, but I told him, I said, I promise you they'll have your coordinates. I said, let me know if anybody official comes by tomorrow. So.
Weren't you in the Air Force?
Yes, I'm retired from the Air Force.
What can you talk about what you did in the Air Force? Are you allowed to talk about what your job?
Oh yeah. No, it's basically there's two different types of law enforcement in the military. There's security forces, and then there's military police. Military police are like regular law enforcement. They go in, and it's just like a cop coming to your house. You know, they've regular 9mm what they carry. Security forces is a little bit different. They kind of do the first perimeters, and their primary weapons an M16 versus the 9mm. So a little bit different mission, but basically establishing regulations of the entire base, basically like all your perimeters. There's certain ways that you have to enter and exit off of a runway, and that's basically what the day-to-day job type of was for me.
So if John Q. Civilian sneaks in and he's trying to get pictures of something he's not supposed to, do they normally haul him straight to jail, or do they just kind of give him a ride out of there and say don't come back, or how does it?
Usually it's get their identification and escort them off of base with a very stern warning, and after that it's like hope you have a good lawyer. Which I also work for a law office now too, so
Oh wow. Well, we got another one here. This one here, you might change your mind on this one a little bit. This one's from a citizen, and it looks like it's coming in for a landing.
That's one machine. Like you see in airport. It's a triangle grab. The light on each corner. And we look real close, that red light flash.
Now the one on the side went out. Not completely.
It just went down. That red light flash.
Now the one on the side went out. Not completely.
that one was a little harder for me to see because of the size of it and using my phone versus a laptop to be on today's show. But yeah, anything is possible. I think we'd be fools to deny, especially with everything that's been released from the Department of Defense, what all is out there. I think we'd be stupid to write it off as just being something cool that the secret lab at DJI just came out with. So as a drone person myself, it's like, yeah, I don't have anything like that.
It looked kind of like a big drone with like little drones, like it was, I don't know, like a bigger drone with little drones flying out of it and coming back to it, and they all kind of landed at once. I don't like when you hit the home button and the drone comes back to land. It's like they were all coming back to land, but I'm not sure about that big one. This next clip is something they found in the desert that they think is alien in nature, and archaeologists found it, and it's pretty interesting. The more support that there could be aliens been coming here for a long time.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This thing was found, I just found this on the news, 7,000 to 8,000 years old. This thing was found in Kuwait at an archaeological site, and they say that it's probably extraterrestrial because of the eyes and the shape of the head. They said it's one of the most amazing finds. They think they found another one. And I'm going to put the link in the description. This is absolutely amazing. And we're definitely not alone. Let's take this thing to the desert and see if something comes back for it. ET phone home. You guys got to read this. This is absolutely freaking amazing. Cheers.
That's weird looking.
I'm thinking if they would have already came back for it, and if they got that kind of technology, they don't need us to set it out there for them to come find it. I'm sure that they could come get it at any time if they really wanted to.
Did they take any type of testing off of a DNA or anything?
I didn't get that far. I'm gonna have to do some more digging on that one. I just got the video there. I thought it was pretty interesting.
That's pretty wild looking.
And here's another one from this is Egypt, and this almost to me looks like it could be like a group of man-made. A lot of this stuff looks like it could be man-made to me, but
I don't even know if that was real or not.
yeah, I think
With
the
so much
video was.
AI out there anymore, it's like we could be sitting here in our homes watching TV and a whole ass invasion could be going on and we wouldn't even have a clue because they keep showing us all this AI crap and you just don't know anymore. It's insane.
I think that was a real video though, because it was shaky. Usually the real ones are like blurry and shaky, and people are freaking out. But I don't know what he was seeing. I almost looked. First, I thought somebody was launching luminaries, those little bags that fly up the.
Yeah, well, I'm
the
wondering if
launch,
like
but
the original video was the clip of him driving by videoing the background and then adding the special effects later. That's why I was like, I don't know.
so this one is some pretty recent event. This happened New Year's Day. I'm sure you're well aware of what happened in New Orleans, and then we had the other
Yes.
event happened in Vegas. This one pertains to the gentleman that died in Vegas in the Cybertruck, and he left
Yeah.
behind a manifesto. And this is a interview talking about the manifesto that he left behind. This is what he left behind for the world to read.
The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. U.S. government needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive VBID. Let me pause right there for a second.
You know, I had a discussion the other day with my mechanic who is at Afghanistan, multiple tours. He and I were talking about the guy rented the truck is what he told me. I don't know. I haven't really looked. I try to avoid the news as much as I can. He knows that those things can contain a blast. If not, if he had done any other vehicle, it would have looked more like what you saw in Oklahoma City with McVeigh. But because of the Cybertrucks being what they were, it was able to contain the blast. So I think he was just trying to get attention, which is stupid, but I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for these people to do this.
It wasn't a very big blast. Like the one in Oklahoma City was like big bags of fertilizer in a Ryder truck. This was like fireworks and I think a couple like cans of gas or something and some bags of powder, maybe some tannerite. I'm not sure, but the both trucks were rented from the same agency. And I guess the part that we all struggle with is, okay, this guy seemed like a pretty normal, everyday guy. You know, what made him just, you know, and then he sent out that manifesto. And I'm like, is that on purpose? Is all this on purpose to try to lead us down a certain path they want us to believe? It's like,
you know, sometimes people just have a mental snap. I have a friend that is in jail right now, accused of murdering someone. And a year ago, she lived next to a governor's house in a different state. I'm not going to mention anything because I don't want to bother or upset her family. But people, I mean, she's military also. I mean, there's a lot of things that military people go through that don't necessarily trigger as soon as you get out, but through time and frustration that things aren't like what you know, your life isn't like what it was before. And so who knows what went on in this guy's life that, you know, just suddenly he had to draw attention to himself, or he felt like everybody was watching him. But was everyone watching him? I doubt it. But I think in his mind, he thought that was real. And it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to go out the resources, because the VA has some wonderful mental health resources. I have utilized them in the past, utilize them still. They're wonderful people. You know, I used to be on all sorts of different kind of depression medications. Guess what? No depression meds. You find your outlet, you find your higher power, you get that therapy, and you know what? You'll never need to take a pill in the rest of your life if you go out and you find what you need. And then there's unfortunately some people that just need to stay medicated. So I feel bad that he, for anybody that was affected by that, you know, and anybody that loved that person, that they didn't get him help, or he didn't seek out the help for himself.
Yeah, it's unfortunate he didn't go get help, and that's something we always preach. Like, if a lot of the stuff that we do paranormal, you can run into some things that can try to, you know, mess with you, especially if you have depression issues, that kind of stuff. There's some dark stuff out there, so we always tell it, look, you know, we try to check on everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? You know, if you haven't heard from a friend in a while, checking on them. It's like, you know, if you're feeling that bad, you know, you're only a phone call away. You know, and you can talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, whenever we do investigations, my first thing that I want to do is there something physical? Is there something mental? Is there something environmental? And once those three things are ruled out, then I run to the conclusion of this could be paranormal. But you have to do those other outlets first. You know, as the wife of a plumbing contractor, it's like, methane gas has some wicked effects on people. And if you've ever gone into a basement where all of the electrical stuff is outlet, I mean, your skin, I mean, the hairs on your skin are just standing up, and you know, it has a huge effect on people. There was a federal transmission line that was trying to put in a huge, basically the government was going to take our land to put in this big electrical grid, and we fought it back. Some counties had like 200 or 50 people that showed up. My county, we had 1,500 people show up. We're like, you are not, no. It's like, this is a whole ass city that's going to show up and says, you're not putting your stuff here. And that's what they did. And they said, okay, we're not going to put it here. There's enough objections. But eminent domain was a real threat less than 2 months ago here.
If you have a vehicle that has fiberglass, like a bus, fiberglass body, or like a camper top or fiberglass, I've had those parked under transmission lines. It'll actually build up a charge, and you'll go to get in the car, and it'll shock you.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't want anything like that around. I have 30 acres here, and I raise cattle, and I'm like, you know, even those wind farms, you know, it's like the shards that go out. It's like, if it kills a cow, oops, sorry. You know, I mean, they're not just livestock to us. Every cow that's in my field has a name, and you know, they're treated. I mean, sure, they got the numbers on the ears, but they got a name, and their herd names are anything from Fonzie to Mrs. Cunningham. You know, but it's like they're all big pets. And we utilize those. They end up becoming our beef and our milk, but I want to know what I'm putting in my body, so I'm raising my own food, my own making my own milk, and you know, that's important to keep yourself healthy, because we don't know what's been put in our food. So
my mom and sister, they raise Simmentals, and every one of their cows has a name, and every baby comes out gets named, and it's to the point where, like, she sold a bull one time, and me and her were out driving around, and it was like, this is like 3 years later. She goes, stop the truck. I'm like, what? She goes, I think that's my bull I used to sell. I'm like, what? And this is 3 years later. She gets out of the truck, walks up to the fence, yells this yells this bull's name, and he comes running right up there like he knew her. You know, it's like, "Well, raging from a baby." I was like, "Well, that's
That's hilarious.
yeah." People don't realize how intelligent some of the cows and different things are.
Mhm.
They think about it as meat, but so with the paranormal, I think there's a lot of cases we'll go in like you're saying. I try to look at environmental, debunk things. The clergy won't come in at all if they think they have to usually need a mental evaluation before they'll even come in. If it's like a possession or attachment type case or there's something going on really dark in that house, they want a mental evaluation before they'll even come out. And then
Yeah.
there's this guy I'm going to pull up next. Sometimes I think you can hear things and just you can scare the crap out of yourself, and then when you actually do hear something, it's a little more. It goes to another level. So I'm going to play this video here and see what you think about this one. This was pretty interesting. This is from down the Appalachia.
Guys, I don't know what's going on, but I'm up here in the mountains hiking a trail. Rain came in, and I'm on my way back to the parking lot to get to my car. And as I'm walking by, I could have swore I heard something say, "Hey." Figured I better document this. And then I've seen this. It looks like a chimney over there. What is that? Whoa. I mean, all bullshit aside, this is pretty cool, right? What they say about going under arches in the woods. We'll find out. Oh, look at this. This is cool. This is neat. I heard it again. Oh, shit.
Looks like we have another Aaron and Zach in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, I heard something. I don't, but yeah, if you hear something say "hey" to you, that'd startle you pretty good.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
next
disembodied
one,
voices, when you hear them, it's like, oh my God, that was so cool.
I don't know if I've heard any disembodied. I've had smells. I've had smells, different things. I've had stuff kind of touch me. But I haven't had a disembodied. I picked them up on my recordings later, and that's really cool when you get one that you can clearly understand. That when I got my first one, it was, and people think they're going to go out and get something every time they go out. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like it's on TV. You may go
Yeah,
out
that's why
and-
they call it ghost hunting versus ghost finding. You know, it's like if you're a regular hunter, you go out in the woods and it's like you don't see anything. You're just lucky that you're out there enjoying nature, and you come back, it's like, all right. In falconry, we have a saying that any day we come home with a bird is a good day, because they have that choice anytime to stay with us or leave us. They don't have to stay with us.
Or heaven forbid something happened to the bird while you're out there.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 years before I got my first EVP that I could legitimately say was an EVP. This one here, I think this is a lady got something going on in her bathroom, and I first watched it. I'm like, okay, are they faking that, making it up? And then it's kind of hard to tell. I'll play this one and see what you think about this one.
Is this evidence of the paranormal?
Noises. It's okay. Shh, sit down. You scared? Yeah. Sometimes you hear noises. Sometimes things get thrown off the counter. I just want to make sure that you see nothing, because this is really creepy. I'm so over it. Come on, John, hurry up and get home. Can you stop, please? Sometimes things get thrown off the counter. Sometimes the water gets turned on. It's really creepy. Who's it, Lucy? Who is it? I don't want to touch it. That's just the cat box.
That was a pretty good video.
Yeah, I don't know. At first, I felt like, okay, she's setting all this up and then leading us into the bathroom. And she said stuff's getting knocked off. I thought, well, maybe it's that cat. I see the cat box, like maybe the cat. But then the drawers open and then they shut back. I don't know. I've never had anything work. I've had doors open, and we had a door one night we couldn't get open. We had two guys. Something was on the other side of the door. That was one of our probably most freaky, probably the strongest thing we've ever ran against, where I had two grown men couldn't get this door. It wasn't locked. It wasn't latched. They just, something was pushing back. They were pushing two guys, just pushing them backwards. And
Wow.
I heard one guy go, "Hey, can you come help me open this door?" And I'm thinking, I already checked that door. There's nothing wrong with that door. And then pretty soon the other guy goes over and they're like, "Hey," and they're pushing, and who's shoving? I finally get over there and the door opens and there's nobody on the other side of that door. But
Yeah.
according to them,
So
it
I
was
bought my
probably
house. I bought my house from a estate sale, and my husband is notorious about leaving cabinets open. And when we first got together, I would call him and from the bedroom, and I'd be like, "Are you home? Is that you in the kitchen?" It's like, "No, I'm still on the job." And I'd go in there, and all the cabinets that were open when I went to bed would be shut. I was like, "Okay, just checking." I was like, didn't know what. I mean, I live in the country, so I felt pretty safe with all my dogs and stuff. I was like, nah, it's like there isn't anybody here. But I have my German Shorthair Pointer actually points on them when they're active. It's crazy. I have a video of him where he's in the laying down command and he goes to sit up and then he stops and he goes right back into the lay down command, like somebody was, doing this with their hands and telling them to sit. It was crazy. I was like, and another time I came home from an investigation, and my husband and I, we had these globes that have like these battery operated lights inside there that look like little Christmas balls. And I came in and it's like the balls, I mean, the whole bowl was lit up. And I was like, well, I didn't turn that on. It's like I only turned those on during, December, which is our, Christmas anniversary. We were married 2 days after Christmas. And this is like in the middle of March. So I'm like, touch those in months. And so I was joking, and there's in my video, I'm like, "Rollo," I said, "are we leaving the light on for you?" Like the Motel 6 commercial. And I said, "Hey," I said, "can you turn off the light, please?" And about that time, poof, light turns off. I'm like, okay.
maybe something followed you home.
No, they live here. They live here. And in fact, I have a Geoport by George Brown. And when I first got it here, one of the first questions I asked was, how many spirits are in my home? And the answer I got was very clear. It said 10. So asked a few more questions, shut it off. My husband got home that night. I said, "Hey, you got to see this thing." I finally came in. It was a present to me for my birthday, and I said, let's do it again. So I just asked the same question: how many spirits are in my home? Only this time, I get one that sounds like a redneck, because 10 is now 2 syllables. It's 10. So, and that's like I've asked it after I got it back from there was some small thing that went wrong, but George repaired it right away. And anyways, I came back when it came back to me the third time I turned it on, asked the same question: how many ghosts are in my home? It's like 10. So I think that there are 10 spirits here at all times that live here, which they don't bother me. You know, it's like every once in a while you'll see something weird out of the corner of your eye, and you're like, okay. So you just get used to it. But they're not bad roommates.
You're talking about your dog, like that lady in that video. Her dog was looking at something. I had
Yeah. That's why I said it's a little bit more convincing when you see that, seeing that there's something else that is focusing over to the right. She goes through, opens up all the cabinets to, show you what's there. Yeah, I think that's definitely more convincing.
a friend of mine went to Waverly Hills, and his dog would always sleep with him. And he said, he had this dog for a couple years, and the dog lay up in bed with him, but no big deal. He said he came back from Waverly, that dog wouldn't come nowhere near him. He really felt like he brought something home with him. I know
Waverly Hills was really cool. We had left the morgue area, and there was a group of us that, it was like a private investigation, but we all kind of split up into teams of two so we could cover more areas, throughout the night. That place is big. Anyways, so the way that we were supposed to communicate with each other is to let each other know, hey, this is Stacy, I'm leaving this room, we're going to blah, blah, blah. And I forgot to say that I was leaving, and I went through a door and I hear, we're in here. And so I was like, oh, I forgot. So I backed up through the door and I was like, hey guys, sorry, I forgot I was supposed to announce that we had just left that room and we were going down. There was no room there. Literally where I heard it was at the doorway. And I'm like, that's weird. There's no room or anything. Because I thought, well, did I pass a room? But no, there was no rooms on the other side. But I clearly heard a voice say, we're in here.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing that was really super cool there is I had, so the tour guide told us that, girls with long hair, take your hair out of your ponytails when you go through. There's a ghost. These two sisters used to share this room. It's like, and she likes to braid your hair. So I was like, okay. So me and my friend were inside there, and she had the camera, and I was doing my SLS and stuff. And I took my hair down, and while we're sitting there, I could see, like, out of my peripheral vision, I could see like these hairs, like baby hairs that are, at the time I had bangs, and they were doing like this. So there was two hairs working, in tandem together, going back and forth. And so I told her, I said, bring the camera over. I said, I want this on Facebook Live. I want this, I want you to show that there's no wind, there's no other hairs moving on my head. And one of the guys that was watching from Oklahoma, he said, your hair just lifted up. And so but yeah, it's all on video. I posted on my evidence page.
It was a little tricky for us there because there's UPS planes coming in like every 5 minutes. And so
oh, wow.
Up on the top floor, you got to kind of consider that noise, the jets coming in, but we did get a REM pod went off like 3 times in that upper solarium, and then our SLS picked up a stick figure and right off of the 5th floor area where the nurse had taken her own life, right in that room off to the south there. And for folks that aren't sure what a SLS is, that's a structured light system camera. It's kind of, they use them for like the Xbox game where it tracks your movement. And then what was happening all over the world, these kids were playing this video game, and all of a sudden another player would pop up and it's tracking this other stick figure, and there's nobody there. So that's kind of how they figured out they could start using it for paranormal. So when we refer to an SLS camera, that's what we're talking about. There's also an XLS, which is a newer version. It has more lasers. It's got a better 3D depth camera. Mine, there's something wrong with it, so I'm going to send it back to the guy that made it. I'm having a lot of trouble with my XLS. The camera part quit working. So, but up at Waverly, we did get some activity up there on that 5th floor. We also captured 2 different shadow figures. I think those pictures are on our group page on Facebook, but it was a pretty interesting night. Went down to all the way to the bottom of the death chute and back up.
Yeah, I went all the way to the bottom too.
They needed a break after that. It's 500 feet down, and back up.
It's kind of funny because I had when I was in the military, in fact that's one of the reasons why I got a medical retirement is I developed adult onset asthma, and so it's like I was no longer combat fit. So it's like, oops, sorry. Anyways, me and her both had asthma. Down here at the bottom, we're like, oh, sure, send the two asthmatics out together. Neither one of us can go run for help. So we kind of got a good laugh out of it. But we got up the stairs okay. Nobody passed out.
One of my team members had just had his, I think, 4th or 5th stent put in his heart. And it'd been about 3 months. And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yep, I'm going down the chute. I'm like, you may not come back out of the chute. He's like, I'm going.
For real.
And then we come back out of the chute. He sits down. He starts popping pills. I'm like, what is that? He's like, nitro. I'm like, are you okay? I'm like, don't you call an ambulance? He said, no, I'll be all right. But we kind of gave us a scare. I'm like, dude, you've had like.
Yeah.
And then after that, about a month later, he went and they had to adjust one of his stents. He had a pinch or something. But I think he's had like 6 or 7 of them put in. I don't know. He's my clairvoyant. He can hear stuff talking to him. The whole time we were at Waverly, he could hear little kids laughing. And something come up and like hugged his leg, and I can't verify any of it because I'm not psychic or I didn't catch any of it on camera. But as soon as we pulled up with the car, he goes, "Hey, there's little kids laughing in here, like they're playing and stuff." I said, "Well, there's a lot of little kids that had lived here and passed here, so." So getting into some of this clergy stuff, this is just kind of a little quick explanation of what happens when someone has an attachment and what a priest or a deliverance minister how he would protect himself, some of the equipment he would take with him, and kind of how it goes. So I'm going to play this clip and see what you think.
When you go on an exorcism, what are you carrying with you?
This is the weapon, the rosary, my number one weapon. The holy water. I have a relic of the Cave of St. Michael, which you're now familiar with. And I take a piece of the true cross that Christ died on. Those are my main sacramentals that I go in with.
What do you mean a piece of the original cross?
So the actual cross he died on, I have a piece of it that's in a special reliquary within it's like a crucifix with a secret compartment.
Where did you get that?
I got that from a bishop in Rome.
Why was it given to you?
Back maybe 20 years ago, it was much easier to get relics. Now they're all kind of monitored, and there's checkpoints to go through. There's a bunch of nuns that actually control who gets what. It's very difficult now. That is almost impossible to get unless you're a bishop. I also have a glove of Padre Pio. Do you know who Padre Pio is?
I don't.
So he's a saint that died really not too long ago, I think in 68. He was an Italian friar who had incredible gifts. So he could read your soul. He could see your sins just from looking at you. He could be in 2 places at the same time by locate. He levitated, he glowed. He had the wounds of Christ on his hands, his feet, and his side, and they bled constantly. So he always wore these gloves.
I love Padre Pio. I have a Padre Pio t-shirt. I'm such a nerd. I'm a Catholic nerd.
I wouldn't mind seeing that levitating. That sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, so there's the guy who was structured after the movie that Russell Crowe was in recently, the last one. His books were more terrifying than the movie that was made. If you just did a movie based off of the books alone, you don't need Hollywood glamour and blood and all that stuff. I mean, his story was so fascinating.
Here's one. This priest. This was kind of like early in his career when he like his first encounter with something he believed was very powerful.
You know what? Hey, I just want to go check this out. Yeah. So I grabbed what I needed to do, a house blessing. I grabbed, and that's all I was doing, right? I was blessing a house, and I was not a deputed exorcist at that point. So I went to her house, and she opened the door, and I entered in, and as soon as I did so, there was a ceiling fan that was still, and it started spinning very, very slowly. Like extremely slow. Fast enough that you could see it spinning, but slow enough that like there's no setting that would cause that. Like, it'd be the most useless, pointless setting. And then all of a sudden, like spinning so fast, like airplane propeller fast.
Wow.
Where it was a blur, to say the least. The noise in the room picked up and correct. It was an airplane propeller for all intents and purposes. Everything that wasn't extremely heavy was blowing around the room.
How was the woman reacting as this happened when you entered?
She was in shock because it had never acted that violently. It was up to that point games, teasing, haunting kind of stuff.
Okay.
This was a lot more action than anything else. Right? Before it was sounds and feelings. Now it was a manifestation of power, if you will. And so, gosh, she I remember her gasping, and at that point I thought, okay, this is great because, hey, the devil's here, and so
she probably felt relief too, knowing she wasn't crazy. If you're encountering this,
I'm sure she did. I'm sure she did, and I just went into mode. Okay, I'm going to go to that counter over there, and I'm going to make holy water.
Were you nervous? This being your first encounter?
No, I maybe that's a gift. Like I don't have a fear of evil. I'm a convert from atheism. So my fear is being separated from God. That's my fear. I don't have any other fear. So when you're encountering the devil, you're encountering a loser. He's already lost. And now, that being said, the devil is not nothing. He is dangerous. Next to God, he's nothing. But
but next to you,
well,
maybe?
He is dangerous and needs a certain respect, a certain difference. Why? Well, because he can hurt people, and you cannot act flippantly around the devil. He will react. He will react, and frankly, God will give him permission to react. God will allow him to manifest his power if you yourself exceed where you should be standing. Right? God will allow the devil to give you a smack if you need it, and to go back into the place where you belong. Kind of to recognize your own smallness too. That the battle at the end of the day, the battle in exorcism, it's God's battle. God is the real exorcist. All of us are just his agents. He's the one that drives the devil out. It's never really about us. So if any of us, if we die today, well, the church raises up another one tomorrow. Big.
So you went over to the kitchen counter.
So went over to the kitchen counter, made holy water. It was in the process of making that holy water that the music box goes off. And that's when, she said, there, that's what I was telling you about. I thought, okay, no problem. We'll take care of it.
Wow. I like that guy. Overcoming atheism to become a priest. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I wonder what his experience was that brought him, to Christ. That's fascinating.
That'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
I've ran across some other folks that were kind of similar situations where they just completely changed their whole life. Something happened, some of them will talk about it, some won't. I got a lot of different equipment, some of it electronic, some of it not. And I've got some homemade stuff that I make, and sometimes we have a little fun with it. I got stuff that's sealed inside bottles where the only thing that can move it is an earthquake or a spirit. And this here was one of my more crazy creations, and I think it's time for a little more cowbell. We call this the paranormal paramoo, and if a spirit or any kind of anyone comes around and ring the cowbell, then we know something's around. And just in case we don't have enough cowbell, we got more cowbell down here.
Guess what? I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. I could have used a little more cowbell. used a little more cowbell.
I love that. That's my all-time favorite skit.
Figured you'd like that since you had cows.
Well, I have dairy cattle too. I just bought 2 Jersey heifers to cross with my Japanese Wagyu so that I could get some good crosses, and I'm just dying laughing at that.
It's the strikers moved a few times, but we haven't got the bell to actually ring yet. But we have had movement, so that was
Nice.
That was a plus. There's a picture.
That's cool.
We were talking about this earlier, and they believe this is evidence of possible time travel. We cover a little bit of everything. We're supernatural over here. We cover conspiracy theories, cryptids, UFOs, Bigfoots, anything paranormal, and time travel kind of fits right in that. We think some of the Skinwalker Ranch stuff going on might possibly be a time travel ship. We think might be trapped inside that mesa. Why we think there's some weird stuff going on there. But this is a picture, 16th century painting, and look very close at the little fellow's shoes here. Let's see what y'all think if you can see it. Did you guys see it? It looked like what they believe is a Nike swoop on there. They think he may be a time traveler was wearing the very first pair of Nikes.
Either that or the corporation gods of Nike went through a bunch of museums and got their inspiration there.
Could be. This next one is this is a picture of the planet. This is like a special satellite topography they've done, and I forget what sensor they were using, but this is out in the Pacific Ocean, and the red, I forget what the red meant, something, and the blue is something else. I'm sorry, I forgot what it, but these are structures that shouldn't be there, and I believe it was the red ones. Anyway, the structures they believe are like lost civilizations. They think they're like man-made. The shapes and different, the way it's showing up on their equipment, it's like, okay, this shouldn't be here. There should just be mountains and some sand and some coral reefs, and maybe a couple sunken boats. There should not be all these weird structures. And there's some new system they come out with. They're able to see these things, but maybe next week I'll have some more information on that. But just kind of want to bring that up, show everybody there's some of the stuff that we're just now realizing. Maybe these UFOs have been here a long time, and they're coming, or they've been here before and they're coming back, and they helped build some of these civilizations, and we don't know what happened. Maybe there was a comet, meteor strike, something like that, took them out. We believe that's what got the dinosaurs. And if you ever go digging fossils, like up in Wyoming, or if you go dig opals out in Nevada, there's 2 different layers. It's like an ash layer, and you'll be digging along, and you'll just see rock and mud and sand, and then you get to this ash layer, and right below that ash layer is where you'll find all the fish. You'll find like a big fish chasing a little fish, and it's like they're frozen in time, and it's like, and it's pretty evident the volcano come in pretty quick and took them out.
That's wild.
That was my pictures for the week, and then want to talk a little bit more about some places you've been, some investigations you've been on. This one here, this place is in Ralston Opera House.
Yes.
And I'm going to show a little clip of it, and then you can talk about it a little bit.
So I grew up in Fairfax, which is about 10 miles from Ralston. So, in fact, my mom was born in Ralston, and I still have family that live there to this day. Ralston Opera House is a jewel for the paranormal community. I don't know what they are charging now, but when we went through, they didn't charge us anything. We went through on a alumni weekend and said, "Listen, we'll to try to get more people in and donations. We'll just come up here, have a thing where people can come up and listen to. Don is the gentleman that runs it, and his stories are incredible. He knows all about the history of the place. There was one of the stories goes that there was one of the ghosts that's seen there is there was a opera troupe that came through or traveling troupe, some sort of performers, and a husband and wife were there, and the afterwards it's like when they met the people that were performing, because they would often come into town and do multiple shows, and so she ended up having an affair with the gentleman that was in the troupe. Well, it came out, and this was at a time where, it's like adultery was like big, big, big. Oh no, I mean it's a no-no anyways, but it's a big, big even back then. And so we know that the three of them were on the roof, but we don't know if she was pushed or if she jumped to her death. But her ghost appears, as well as sometimes she's by herself, and other times it's her and another gentleman that are seen. But in broad daylight, while we were up there getting set up, you could hear, when we stayed the night the first time, you could hear boots walking like they were behind all of the chairs. And we were back there, and I'm like, you would think it was going to be on the other side of the wall, but there was no balcony on the other side of the wall. But you could hear it walk back and forth, and we're like, this is crazy. We're just all standing there just listening to something walk back and forth. And there was probably 5 or 6 of us in the room at that time when we experienced it. So the night went on, and we did basically, if you made a donation to come in and listen to Don talk about the stories about the opera house and stuff, and tell the ghost stories and stuff, if you made a donation, it was a lottery. So one person got to stay the night with our paranormal team. One person and a guest, and so that was just a little fundraiser that we did for them. Other teams offer up whatever it is that they work out between them, but I don't have a problem sleeping anywhere. I almost fell asleep at Waverly when they pushed me up into the morgue, the little slab there. I was like, all right, I'm gonna lay here, and this is by then about 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm just like totally asleep right now. I don't have a problem falling asleep anyplace, and I was so uncomfortable, like just a big anxiety. That I actually went and slept out in my truck that night. And I've never done that at any paranormal location I've ever been at. So not really for sure what caused it. It was it paranormal? Was it the lights from the stage that, were emitting some sort of frequency that I didn't know about, but my body detected? No idea. But I'm not the only person that experiences that. There's a lot of people that experience high anxiety in there. Don will tell you when you go inside that the first 2 chairs in the front and the center, people don't want to sit in there because they'll come in and then they'll just make like a last minute decision to sit someplace else. So none of us know why, but I watched it over and over. When people would come in, nobody would sit in those chairs. I'm like, this is weird. It's like, and he, let me in on it before the social experiment happened. So it was kind of cool. And then other people's have experienced vibrations, like the chair would vibrate, and there's no reason for it. So it's a really unique property. And next door, this was the location that in the movie Killers of the Flower Moon, Anna Brown that was murdered, she went to the opera house for her last, her last night of her life. Then went over to the Silver Moon, which is next door, and that was a place where you could get drinks and food and stuff like that. And when she left there in the movie School of the Flower Moon, that was when they drove her out after that and killed her. If you walk by the Silver or the Crescent, even though there's no electricity, it's completely like it's like ruins, like a castle ruins. I mean, there's just nothing inside there. It's just completely gutted. There's not even a ceiling. You can hear glasses tink together like they're still toasting. And I had two different paranormal investigators on two different teams, because we had Sooner State Paranormal Society there and Oklahoma Paranormal Association, and two different ones on two different teams both had heard that and then related it to somebody that was a friend and mutual, and they were like, oh, well, such and such said that they experienced it too. So I thought that was pretty wild. But yeah, this place is a really, really unique property, and going back in time, and Charlie Chapman performed there. We did a television recording for, it was called Haunted Heritage, and it was part of PBS. And they did, I put out a spirit candle which reacts to EMF and asked questions, and literally like they were performing, started using the candle right away to answer questions. And we did that in one take. This is not two separate takes put together like they often do with paranormal TV shows. This was like one thing from the beginning to end, and we didn't have to reshoot anything. They were like, that's good. We're done. So it's worth the visit to go up there for the history of the town and the people that perform there. It's a step back in time for sure.
Have to make a trip down to Oklahoma sometime.
It's cool.
You've done a little bit of world traveling, and
yes,
done some paranormal investigations overseas. And I'm going to pull up a couple of places you've been, and you can kind of let us know how about your experiences there.
The most haunted places of London. In 1864, an on-duty soldier near the lieutenant's lodgings caught another sight of Anne Boleyn's ghost. He confronted a female figure all in white, but she didn't respond. She just stood there looking at him. He figured it was an intruder, so he took his bayonet and plunged it into her chest, but the weapon passed right through her. Another officer that was lodged in a nearby tower saw the whole thing from his window. Soon after, the apparition disappeared, and nobody knows for sure what Anne wants, or what she's still doing in the realm between the living and the dead, but her ghost isn't restricted to the tower. She's also been spotted in her childhood home at Hever Castle and several other courts and halls where she had traveled when she was alive. She's often seen without a head, but people can identify her by her elegant clothing. Some believe it's not her ghost at all. From her last moments before death, she seemed to be at peace, so many think that these visions are just impressions left behind and her soul has indeed moved on to the afterlife. But whatever it is, her form still haunts the people inside the Tower of London.
So here's what I tell people about going and visiting the tower. Go early. Don't plan anything else that day. And if you can get to the front of the line, you can get to locations to do EVP sessions before anybody else gets there. You kind of have to have like a general knowledge of where rooms are in a tower that you would want to visit. But if you get there at the front, and you're going to get a better chance of getting actual evidence and using your K2 meters to rule out, which most of the time that's what I took with me. I used the microphone on my phone, and I brought my flashlight to play the flashlight game. Which is where you turn to, anybody doesn't know, it's where you turn the flashlight like a mag light to a sweet spot, and the spirits have the ability to turn it on and off to ask questions. So I literally spent the entire day at the tower, and that definitely got activity in the room where the boys were allegedly taken from. And there was a couple other locations I can't remember off the top of my head without going back to my notes. But that's one place you definitely want to go to. It's amazing. You're literally stepping back in time. It's so crazy just to think of all the pain and the bloodshed. And there's a memorial that's in front where it says, here's the site where Anne Boleyn was, she was killed. And it's like, that's not it actually. If you go over to where they keep the crown jewels, and it's just a little bit farther out from that, it's an unmarked area. But they put the marker there. I mean, a tribute there. Just that's where they put the memorial instead. But yeah, it's a really cool location. But Hever Castle is mind blowing. It's about an $80 Uber ride to get there. It's in Kent. But we stayed there 2 nights, and I'm so glad I had 2 nights. I stayed there on Halloween. On Halloween night, they actually open up the entire castle, and they let you go in. And well, I mean, there's some rooms that are off limits, but for the most part, you just walk through everything. And we went back to this one room that's not on any of the other tours. And there's a gentleman, his last name was Astor. He did a lot of remodeling after it was out of the Boleyns and through time and stuff. He's closer to 19th century. Anyways, he had this seance that they did. This is back when, mysticism and all of the seances and stuff going on. That was a big thing. So we got to listen to this seance from like the late 1800s, and it was so cool just to step back and, know that they were doing this way back then still. But 2 EVPs that I remember getting there that really blew my mind was, it was in the billiards room. I was by myself. There wasn't anybody around. It's a very quiet location. And what the first one says Queen, very clear. And the second one said traitor. And so anyways, the first night I went out, you get, the other cool thing about staying there is that you have the entire grounds to yourself. So you don't get to walk through the castle at night, but you get to walk through anywhere else on the grounds. So there I am out being a little weirdo in the night with my flashlight and my K2 and my phone to record everything. And I go outside and I get a hit on my K2 meter, and I was like, okay, I can't detect any security cameras. I can't detect anything else that would normally set this stuff off. So I set my K2 meter on a bench, and I started having this conversation. And I said, am I talking to Anne? And it lights up. And I thought, oh my gosh, jackpot. I am talking to Anne Boleyn. As somebody that's an Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII nerd, I was just like, the mother lode. So, but then it's like after having this conversation for a little bit, I go back to my room and it started raining, and it dawns on me there were 2 Annes that lived in that castle because after Anne Boleyn was beheaded, Anne of Cleves was given that home as a gesture from Henry VIII. Look, I won't kill you. Let me keep all your money. I'm going to declare you as my sister. Here's this great house, great castle. Go live there. So she got this really awesome property. And anyways, I thought, oh, total rookie move. You didn't verify. Is this Anne Boleyn or is this Anne of Cleves? So I had to go back naturally the next night after we did the tour. And I went back and I said, okay, I was here last night. I said, I was talking with you. Is this Anne Boleyn? If it's Anne Boleyn, would you light it up to yellow? Didn't go to yellow. If this is Anne of Cleves, will you light the K2 up to yellow? Boom. I was like, okay, I'm talking to a queen still. This is great. So I had a conversation using the K2 meter with Anne of Cleves, and come to find out that she wants more emphasis put on her. This was her home as well. So the next day before we departed, and of course I got all of the ghost stories and stuff from the people that lived there and the things that they had experienced and stuff. But the next day I went back to the tour, and I told the lady, I said, I just want to ask if you guys are going to do any further exhibits or things with Anne of Cleves. Is there anything planned for that? She goes, as a matter of fact, yes, we are. And I said, oh, perfect. She said she's going to really like it. So I'm sure they probably thought, what?
Do you use any phone apps, or do you just use your just
I
EVP
don't.
recording? And
I don't like to use phone apps except for GhostTube Lite. I don't believe in paying for it if you can just, see the thing with your eyes and, record one or two because you can download them. But the apps, I've got one friend, actually my co-author of the upcoming book, Haunted Sepulpa. She totally believes in this one app, and she's gotten. I have to say, there's been some times that we've been together that we've gotten some pretty pertinent information to what we were dealing with at the time. But in general, for me, I don't like anything with a dictionary built into it. I like to be able to just hear it, see it, feel it. And if I can't, then, that's why it's like the Envoy is unique because it can spell out your dictionary by using environmental factors. And I think that's a Ghost Stop product. But as far as, an obelisk or no, something, no.
I've had pretty good. I've had pretty good luck with utility apps. Like if it says entertainment, there's no way I'll use anything that says entertainment. But
Yeah.
Necrophonics is one. We've had some things that we got the guy's name, we got some pertinent information, and then we had the obelisk going at the same time. And the family wanted it. We didn't know why we were there for sure. The family said just kind of like reunite with a loved one. We didn't know why we were there, so we were up in French Lick, Indiana, and our psychic that was with us said there's 11 spirits on this property. And we're like, okay. We get in there, and she's like, I'm getting a David. And everybody's like, David mean anything? Nope. And our equipment says David. I'm like, okay, she's saying David. The equipment's saying David.
Yeah.
Nope, no David. And so then we're going along, and then we got a different name. And at the same time, the obelisk goes off, and it says, crushed neck. It said hurt. It said boards, like lumber boards. It said crushed neck, hurt boards. And we got this name, and the daughter and the mother said, stop. You guys got to stop. We got to tell you something. We're like, okay, what's going on? Oh, there was a tornado, and the part of the roof got blown off the porch, and the father was back there fixing trying to put it was like a metal roof. He was trying to put it back up, and he fell. And when he fell, the boards fell on him, and the metal roof come down, and literally an Ann of the Ann syndrome there that you just dealt with. Pretty much the only thing left wasn't much holding his head on afterwards. It was a pretty tragic accident, but we got his name, we got boards, we got crushed neck, we got hurt, and then he just kind of kept coming through, and he was, it was kind of like he just needed help passing on. But the mom had a terminal illness. We think maybe he was just hanging around, for her. But we did get his name, and all that coincidence. We're like, okay, and then we got another name, and the whole family just jumped up and go, "What's that? SOB doing here?" And we're like, "What?" Apparently, there was a friend of the family who had stolen from them, and he was in jail for that and some other stuff, and I guess he died in jail, and he came on, and it was like, "You need to leave." And the guy was like, "I'm not leaving." And he started cussing back and forth with the family. And it was so wild that night. And so anyway, we kind of tried to do some cleansing there. It's like, okay, this guy needs to go. And on my SLS, I did get a couple, it looked like two guys, like kind of going at it. Like a stick man. Usually a stick man will come up, and I'm like, okay, is that picking up on a hat tree? Is that a lamp? Is that a vacuum sweeper? Like, okay, this one's pulling out. It looks like a stick, and then this one, it looked like they were fighting. I've never had that happen. I've had some weird stuff. I've had stick figures look like they're fighting. I've had them dancing before. I've had him come out of a bathhouse, looked like he was drying off. Just like 15 minutes later, he come out drying off again, and I'm like, okay, this has got to be a residual, thing going on. The weirdest one we ever got was a butterfly, and that was on an XLS, not an SLS. Oh, wow. And it just manifested, and you can see the wings, it's fluttering around, and it goes right into the wall and gone.
What about a fairy?
I don't. Well, maybe it could have been. It looked like a butterfly to us. And I've talked to other guys with the XLS system. They're like, I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. So my upcoming next trip in May and June is Ireland and Scotland. Ireland's with the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. That's a structured one, but we are going to a fay farm. So I don't know. I've never had any experiences with fairies, but I hope I do.
So take a lot of pictures.
Oh yeah.
Tried two different digital cameras. Take hundreds and hundreds of pictures. If there's any kind of hemlock trees around, look for any kind of thing that looks like it. And you won't see it when you look at your picture. You got to zoom in, like I'm talking like 150 magnification, because I thought my camera was pixelating. And then I got a fluorescent green one and a purple one, and it was by these same 3 tombstones and a hemlock tree. And then I took the next image, and it like moved in front of the tombstone. And I'm like,
so for Christmas, I asked for the Meta AI glasses because I want a camera, to be able to do that little click at all times so that I can see, run multiple things at the same time. So I went ahead and had my prescription put into the Meta AI glasses. And I haven't got them yet, but I can't wait to see, to take that on a trip and see if I can, because I can just like look at a building and say, okay, what's that? And then I can, oh, well, that's such and such castle. And so it can tell me the history of it right there. But also that was the other thing is that, sometimes we don't pick up things with our eyes. But if you're always wearing your glasses and you just click, poof, there you are, you're starting to record. And you could be literally be watching orbs and different things, show up on the recording that goes to your phone after it's done. So I know that's a crazy, way to look at new paranormal ways of trying it, but I'm going to try it and see what happens.
Anything hands-free, I'm all for it, because like I've got wrist recorders now. I wear like a watch because I'm tired of holding a recorder and holding a camera and holding a bunch of equipment. So the wrist recorders for me are great, and then I get validation if I get on 2 or 3 different pieces of equipment. But going back to your fairies, like I went back to the cemetery 6 more times. I've taken like 200-300 pictures each time. I get nothing in the whole entire cemetery. They're just around this one area, and I went back and looked at the tombstones, make sure there's no like shiny stones in them. But this thing, I had a tripod. Camera wasn't moving, but each image it would move like they're flying across. I'm like, okay, the lightning bugs. I go out there in the wintertime, like there's no lightning bugs, and I'm like, are they purple? Are there purple lightning bugs? I found out there are purple lightning bugs, but I'm not seeing anything blinking. And another gentleman, he's with the Spirit Mechanics over out of Lexington. He told me to take a shot glass. It sounds kind of weird, but take a shot glass, and you put a line on it, like about halfway up, take a Sharpie, make a line, and fill it up with a sweet whiskey. Not a fire burning whiskey, but like something real sweet, like Southern Comfort, something like that. Fill it up to that line. And wherever you think the fairies are, or whatever you're trying to attract, you leave it out there and leave it for about an hour. Take a few baseline pictures, then come back an hour later and start taking pictures and see if you don't see a bunch more around it, because supposedly they like sweet whiskey. And then
that's a cool idea.
And make a line on the shot glass and see if it goes down.
Well, Amazon also has these little body cameras for $40. I mean, you could literally like set up your body camera because it's got 24-hour capabilities on recording. I believe it is. It's either I think it's 20. It's no, maybe it's not that long. Maybe it's 8. It may be 8 hours, but it's this cool little body camera I got, and we use that up at Ralston as well. One of the girls had it there, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to get me one of those." But yeah, I actually had George put me a port also in my Geoport, so that I could put headphones on or Bluetooth and not interrupt anybody else that's on the tour, but be able to listen to what the ghosts are telling me as well as listen to what the tour operator is saying. So I think that's going to be fun. I'm a little scared to fly with it, but I've flown with a lot of other equipment, so we'll see. I'll just have to take out insurance or something.
That's my entertainment when I go to TSA with a bag full of ghost hunt equipment. I just sit back and wait for them and go, "Hey, come here."
Yeah,
What's that?
I
What's
took
that thing?
a drone and a bunch of REM pods and cat balls, which I was going to tell you, they have these little things that are about this big. They're sleeves of fabric that have a zipper, but they act as a wallet. But you can fit like 6 or 7 cat balls in that thing, as well as a digital recorder at the same time. So if you want to keep your hands free, but take the stuff with you, and they come in all different. It was in my Santa stocking this year. My husband's like, "You really need that." It's like, "You need your hands to be free." I'm like, "This is great, baby." So,
I usually have a big roll around kit with stackable boxes, and then I've got a backpack, and then I've got another small bag. It's like a shoulder bag, I call it my man purse, and a little camo
yeah,
bag. But I keep extra cat balls, batteries, extra lights, tools, all kind of stuff in there. You just never know what you're gonna get into. But yeah, I went back to that same cemetery with a different camera, just to see if I could get. I've changed lenses. I went wide angle, went telephoto. I got the same results with that camera, so I went with a different camera. And then Nikon wants me to buy some software to get the pictures out of that camera, and I just haven't decided I want to do that. So,
yeah.
so that's
Yeah,
one
the
of the
first
reasons
time
I
I
have
went
not
over to
went
Europe,
back
I
there.
went to Germany, France, and England, and went down into the catacombs. Did Versailles. In Germany, I was averaging like 2 castles a day, so including the Frankenstein's castle.
Cool.
That was pretty cool.
Did you see any skulls or anything down in the catacombs?
Oh gosh, they're everywhere. I mean, it's insane. But you know what surprised me is I just figured that the K2 would be just like constantly non going off. I think it went off like 4 times, and that was it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of bizarre. So I don't know, but they only have like a really, really small section of the entire tunnels. Basically partitioned off. So, they're probably sticking at the back part of it, like, nah, we're gonna get away from the people, which I don't blame them.
The Seattle has a really nice underground tour. I don't know if you've been up there. Where the streets and the ground used to be, and then they built it up higher. So then they left all that whole, basically became underground. They had
Yeah.
I think they were making liquor down there and had speakeasies and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And,
We've got a lot of
it was
speakeasies around here. Sepulpa's was a pretty crazy town for a while. In fact, one that's featured in the book, Haunted Route 66, which is by Tanya McCoy. She's also my co-author on the upcoming book. She kept getting the feeling that she needed to look in this hole. So she picks up this, because there's little slots in the floor, and that's where they used to hide their alcohol. And so she picks up the slot and starts digging around inside there. Well, when I did it, I didn't see anything, but she kept digging around, and she found a bone and a button next together. And she's a nurse, and she's like, I think this is human. I think she was going to try to send it off and get it tested to see if it was male, female, or what it was.
wow.
Yeah, that was underneath our Chamber of Commerce in their building.
When you travel like that, I try to travel light, like put everything in one backpack, my carry on, but like nothing in the check bag. But like you're kind of limited on how many battery packs you can bring. So I try to put a couple of those in the. You have to look up the latest TSA requirements, but I think we're going to go on another trip next September. But the last one we went on to, we went up to Seattle and we went up to Alaska. And we actually went to Sitka to a 200-year-old Russian cemetery. And
oh, that's cool.
My sister was with me. And we went out there. She was a Tlingit princess, and Tlinget's like kind of like an Inuit, native from that area. And I think she'd married into a Russian. I think he was a sea captain. But some of the instead of a tombstone, they had a big iron cross, like heavy iron. And we did get a few cat ball readings there. It was pretty wild. And the other weird thing we found, I don't know if it's necessarily paranormal, it was just kind of weird. We found a jar, and there was a picture of this lady in the jar. And it looked like some pine cones or something in the jar, but there's this picture, and it said, "Mama, you finally made it on your trip to Alaska." and it was under the bushes there in the cemetery. And then we got to looking at it. We think it was her cremains. We think that they took her cremains up there because she didn't get to make the trip. But they're like, "Mama, you finally made the trip," and that we think they spread her cremains and ashes out there and for some reason left the jar, behind. It was under a bush. My sister found it. Because what do you think we ought to do? I said, I think you ought to just leave it right there.
I was scuba diving in Florida, and I was up top. It wasn't my time. We always go down for a lobster mini season, and because you can get like 36 lobster during that 3 day. You get 12 a day, so it's pretty good limits. And for the cost of the out-of-state hunting license, it's really decent deal. Anyways, we were down there, and one of the guys come up and he's like, "Oh, I found this beautiful jar." And I was like, "Wow, that's gorgeous." And I pick it up and I look underneath it, and it says, "Here's the name of Betty," and I'm going to not put her name out there, a last name, but I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm like, "You just brought a dead person on the boat. This has surely got to be some sort of bad luck." So we took her out a little bit further and chunked her back over, because I was like, no dead people on the boats.
I've been told that when you grab a lobster, you have to put it in the bag pretty fast because they scream and it'll attract barracudas and sharks. Is that true? Is that sound?
Yeah. So they have this thing. It's called a tickle stick, and it looks kind of like a dog handler's type of toy. It's a long stick with a little bitty noose that's kind of like shaped like this. And so what you do is when you see the lobster, you go behind them because they're going to back up away from you, and you open your noose, and when they step through, then you do a quick pull, and then they make this noise. It sounds like a kind of like a dolphin or something. And so anyways, then you grab them, and you have to look underneath the tail first. If they've got some little orange things, those are eggs. So it's female, chunk her back out. And then if they don't have any eggs, then you just measure. At the end of each tickle stick, there's like a little ruler. And I think that it's like 6 inches. They have to be at least a 6-inch tail. And so you just measure it to make sure it meets the guidelines, and then you stick it in what we call the lobster hotels. And then carry on you get to the next place and do it again. But they'll give you a little ride. It's kind of like a mini rodeo underneath. I mean, they're strong little suckers. You wouldn't think it, but I'm like, woo, this is fun.
Do you just take them all back to the hotel or wherever you're at and cook them
No,
at night?
I stay with friends down there when I go, but we go to the dock and we usually clean them at the dock, and then which is basically you take the tail and break it off from the main part of the body and then chunk, because these are spiny lobsters, so they don't have like the big meat in the claws and stuff. So you just chunk that and then take the rest of it back to grill it the next couple of days or so.
They have that. They have those lionfish down there too that they kind of have open season on those things because they become invasive. But I've seen a couple of guys. You got to be real careful with those because they're poisonous. But they cut the fins off with like a pair of kitchen shears and then they deep fry them.
Oh wow! Yeah, no, I ain't touching them. You're like, nope.
You definitely want one of those tickle sticks for those. I had another little Anne Boleyn clip here, and I think that was my last clip I had.
When you think about these executed wives of Henry VIII, all I would want to do for the rest of my eternal, immortal life is scare the shit out of men. That's all I would want to do.
I love that. I think they said that particular, because it comes out, he looks like he's got a big skull on. I think they said that was a monk, but I'm, based on the robes and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that was supposed to have been recorded at the tower too, but I'm not 100% positive on that one. I have to go back and look again. I can't remember.
So when your books, have you got any books out already, or are you still working on books?
So I was the research assistant on Haunted Route 66, and that was published under Tanya. But no, my first book's coming up, which is Haunted Sapulpa, and it's a city in Oklahoma, which is about 10 miles from where I live right now. And even the law office where I work is haunted. Like, you hear sneakers running down the hall. Tanya and I were doing a Facebook Live one night, and you could hear somebody actually like running on the roof. And she says, I think somebody's in your attic. And I said, we don't have an attic. I said, it's just a flat roof. I said, there's nobody's got access to that. And we've had, gosh, what else have we had happen there? Oh, my team and I were recording, and actually one of the guys on our team was a skeptic. But we were in one room, and I said, guys, excuse myself, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, and I went across the hall to this one bedroom, or this one room that's inside there. And we have one of our teammates, Howard, we call him the professional TV watcher, because that's all he does is just watch the cameras. And he's inside there, so I'm standing there behind him, and I can hear Chris say, hey, are you gonna go check on Stacy? She says, oh well, she came out, but then and she walked towards us, but then she turned around and walked back, and then went into the room where Howard is. I didn't walk towards them at all, but they said that they saw me, but they said it looked like a thinner version, like I was walking sideways towards them and then walked sideways back and then went into the room. So they were like, he says, I don't know how to explain what I saw. He goes, you didn't come back that way? And I said, no. I said, I went straight across from the bathroom, right across the hall to the other room. So that one was really cool. But yeah, that's an interest, and it's right across from the Swelpa Historical Museum that I saw a full body apparition come out, like it was just doing like, here I am. And I actually thought it was another person, because we were doing like investigations for other people that night where Tanya had sold ticket sales to raise money for a Paracon. And so this person just comes out of a wall and is just like gone, but I couldn't see very well. And so I told my friend, I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, we didn't mean to be talking out loud over here. And I said, there was no response. And I said, girl, do you have your flashlight with you? And she said, yeah. And I said, shine it over there. There wasn't anybody there. So then I immediately ran back and grabbed my cat balls and stuff and set a grid over there using the G2, and it broke the grid and it activated the cat balls. And we actually had a newspaper writer with us that night. It was his wife's birthday, and he wanted to take her out for her birthday, and that's what she wanted to do, was do the Ghost Hunter for the Night event. And so she was there, and he was a skeptic, but when he left, he was a believer and wrote actually a full page newspaper out about it, or newspaper story about it.
We did a fundraiser down in Tennessee, and it was a public, they had 25, 30 people come in, break up into groups, and there was a guy, he was a hardcore skeptic, and he was just talking shit all night, and which I'm like, okay, whatever, just don't ruin it for the rest of the people that are here to enjoy it, but he'd talk shit once in a while, and then I come back upstairs, and he just had this funny look on his face, and he said, hey man, hey, I just seen her. I'm like, who? I said, there's a lady in a blue dress just went right through here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, it looks like that lady in that painting in the other room in there. And I was like, well, that was the guy that owned the house's daughter. And he goes, well, and then after that, he was like, can I try the equipment? Once he's seen it, he couldn't unsee it at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy was hardcore. After that, he completely changed his whole demeanor, everything. He was just like, then he was kind of like getting into it, because he was like, okay, I just seen this lady, and everybody else was disappointed that really wanted to see something, and he saw it.
Yeah.
I think maybe she's come out on purpose to kind of
I've had too many things to even ever go believing that there isn't something paranormal out there. I stayed at McIntyre Villa in Atchison, Kansas, and woke up with being choked. It felt like a thumb was right here on your throat, pushing in. And in fact, when I woke up, I knew that the owner, Stephanie, had cameras throughout the house. And so I grabbed my phone and I screenshotted it. So I would have the exact time that I could tell her to go back and look at her cameras on. I said, girl, I just, check your cameras in the morning because I just woke up being choked. And then another time at Beatty Mansion, it was our second time to come back there. And Tanya and I had gone before with Brooke Montoya. And we were all down in this part of the basement in this one room. And the guy had told us whenever he was giving us the walkthrough, he's like, I don't like to go in that room. He says, they don't like me to go in that room. So we told Tanya, said, yeah, the guy said that he won't even go in that room. And so Tanya's like, well, I'm going to go in that room. So she walks towards it and we hear what sounds like an entire ceiling collapse in the next room. And we were doing a Facebook Live and we all three had simultaneously dropped the F-bomb. And so they're thinking afterwards, Tanya was like, oh my gosh, that's cool. I'm still over here in military police mode thinking my 9mm upstairs and we have to get upstairs because someone has just broken into this room. We all think differently. That's where my thought process was. But when we went back past the room, there wasn't even boxes. The ceiling was intact. There was nothing there. So no way of explaining that one at all. And then the second time I went back to Beatty Mansion, went back to that same room. This time we got through without the sounding like the ceiling was collapsing. And it was two guys and myself. And one of the guys was wearing a sport watch that every time that he would move, you'd see it light up the little green underneath it. It's the kind that takes your little impressions and stuff like that of your heart rates and stuff like that. So every time he was moving his hands or whatever, you would see it move. So we were inside there, and then all of a sudden it's like the whole room got black. Like I couldn't see them and they couldn't see me, but they could see behind me. But I was standing by the doorway, so they should have been able to see my outline. And then they said, well, we can't see you at all. And I said, well, I can't see you guys. And then about that time they said, but we see a shadow dude doing this. Like he was like sticking his head out, and they'd go back and then do that again from behind the doorway. And then they looked beyond that and they could see, because there's orange lights in the hallway. You could see another dude walking back and forth. You know that scene in Star Wars Phantom Menace where the Phantom Menace is going, the Sith warrior's going back and forth and he's all angry. It's exactly what that little shadow dude was doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, and then about that time I felt cold fingers do this, and then fingernails, like sharp fingernails on my head. And I said, okay, guys, this is touching. This is getting way, way too uncomfortable. I said, I need a light. Turn on the light. Please turn on the light. And so they finally turned on the light. And I was like, I couldn't believe that they were less than 4 feet from me and I couldn't see them at all. But whatever it was had completely engulfed me in like this major black mass.
Any smells when you're in those locations? Have you encountered any phantom smells?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Perfumes, rotted meat kind of smell, burning. Burning's a frequent one. But you go and it's like nothing there.
We were in a cemetery and the lady next to me smelled a cigar smoke. And I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was running. I didn't smell it. And then about 10 minutes later, I smelled it. And I was like, okay. Anybody out here smoking a cigar? We're like, no. And then I was in another house, an old mansion. It was the governor's house in Tennessee, and it smelled like a flowery smell. And it was like, but it was like almost like somebody had perfume on and was sauntering around the room. There was a round table in the middle of the room, like a flower arrangement. And it's like somebody came in, and they were just kind of like, the lady in the corner said, "Hey, I'm smelling like flowers." We're like, okay. And then a couple of people in between us don't smell nothing. And then the lady next to me is like, I smell it. It's like almost like rose water smell or something. And then I smell flowers. I'm like, okay. And then nobody else smelled it. And then a lady on the other corner smelled it. Like she walked through there, whatever, and it just went around the room and it went out and then it was gone. And I'm looking for flowers. There were fake flowers on the table, no smell. Went in the corner. They had a reed diffuser. It was cinnamon oil flavor. Cinnamon. I'm like, no, that's not it. And they're like, no. And I let everybody smell it. They're like, nope, it was flowers. I'm like, yeah, we all smell the same damn thing, but we don't know what it was. I was in an attic of an old house, and I call it getting stink bombed. It was like it was kind of like some little kid came up with a can of that fart spray or something and just sprayed you. Like, it was that intense right next to me. And then the lady next to me is like, what the hell? I'm like, it's not me. And we both smelled it, and then it was just gone. As fast as it was there, it was gone.
Yeah.
So you're going to go, where are you going next? You're going over.
So next is Scotland and Ireland. It'll be Ireland with the Tennessee Race Chasers for 11 days. And then we're going to spend a couple extra days in Ireland. And then after that, go to Scotland and just wing it. But I'm already researching locations to go. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Scotland's got Nessie over there.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing, like City of Edinburgh is like a big one that's, I'm really just concentrating on. But I want to find, I've seen some different cemeteries that have like some of the old graveyards that they're like, okay, this was built like this because this person was supposedly a vampire in life, and yeah, so I'm just gonna. I've got all of these books to read before I go over there, but I still got to finish writing my book first.
I think it's the end of September. We're gonna go up to Salem. We're gonna go up to Boston and go to Salem and see all the witch stuff, and then we're gonna go do the Constitution, the old ship. And then I think
if you get a chance, also do New Orleans for for Halloween. You will never regret it. It's like the whole week is Halloween. Bourbon Orleans is a good hotel to stay in. I've woke up being touched. I've walked through literally what felt like a lace spider web. That's the only way that I can describe it, because it was not a normal spider web. It felt as heavy as walking through a fabric of lace. And that one I couldn't get off of me. I actually had to go down and ask somebody else that was there taking a class that I was taking. I said, hey, do you have anything to do with cleansing? I need one bad. And I said, and she's like, yeah, but let's do it outside. So we went outside and I got this thing. As soon as she started working on me, it's like everything got off. But man, I could not stop itching my head. When something's attachment, I feel my head itches really bad. So that's how I knew it was still there.
That's good to know.
But when I stayed at Lafitte Guest House, it took my wedding ring off. And my fingers swell at night because of blood pressure issues. So I don't often wear it. But when I go on vacation, my husband always makes sure that I wear it with me, and I love it. And anyways, that night we came in, and it's like, and I don't drink. I didn't put on any lotion, nothing like that. There's no reason why that ring shouldn't have got off of my fingers. But he did a cover slip just to see if there was anything that we left, socks, whatever. And he says, are you missing anything? I said, no. I said, I get everything packed. I'm ready to go. And he says, well, what about this? And he's holding up my wedding ring. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, I totally would have left it. So it's like, go figure, it's like the house of a pirate took my ring. And when I went downstairs and was telling the receptionist, because I always ask all the staff, when I go someplace on vacation, have you experienced anything paranormal? Tell me about it. She said, man, she goes, it was so bad last night. She goes, the boots going up and down the stairs. She goes, that I had to actually put on my earbuds so I didn't have to listen to it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're getting toward the end of our time. I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Do you have the name of your new book yet coming out?
Yes, it's called Haunted Sapulpa, and it'll be out fall of 2025.
Haunted Sapulpa. We'll have to be looking out for that. When it does become available, can you let us know, and we'll plug it for you. We'll put it on our group page and whatnot. But
thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, Vinny texted me. He just got home. So he's out fixing some frozen pipes out there. But I really appreciate you coming on. And maybe we'll have to do this again sometime, or go out on investigation with your team. Maybe head down to Oklahoma sometime. Sounds like that Ralston Opera House sounds pretty good.
Absolutely. Cool. Come down. We'll show you a good time.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, and you have a good one. Come on.
You too.
You too. Well, I think it's supposed to be stopping.
It still says it's rolling on my side.
Yeah, me too.